Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Digital Payments for Business Growth Masterclass brought to you by Deskera and Cashfree. I have here Siddharth with me, who has been with Cashfree for some time. And welcome, Siddharth, to the show.
Hi, Saurabh. Good afternoon, everyone.
Awesome. So, Siddharth, we have been working together, that is both Deskera and Cashfree, and we have partnered to make digital payments super easy for all all the businesses and different industries and verticals. And today we are going to talk about that. But interesting thing, that we were talking the other day, and we realized when this entire journey started. I mean, India is going digital, is what everybody agrees with. But if you remember, I mean, when the journey started is the interesting point. I mean, if you look at the digitalization curve for Indian markets, right, then you see that there is an year-on-year growth. And layout guy, could you share the presentation, please? I think the layout guy is okay. Here he is. So India is going digital, and we are seeing an year-on-year increase in the number of digital transactions. And now with Bheem and UPI, we are seeing an increase in mobile payments as well. And obviously, I mean, debit card continues to be the uh, lowest trending thing there because uh, I guess people are still not very comfortable using cards, but they have started to trust digital transactions in Bheem a lot actually in the last few years. And this entire story, if you remember, it started on 8th November 2016 with the demonetization. So just wanted to hear from you. I mean, what was it pre 2016 November and after 2016 November? What has been your experience in terms of the uptake and how the market has started treating uh, uh, cash-free payments?
Sure. So, actually, interesting graph there, right? So, if we actually look before that, we actually had a scheme so that everyone owns a debit card, right? So, actually, if you look at the timelines, the Jan was launched in about 2014, and the idea was that everyone should have a debit card, and it was supposed to digital payments through debit card was supposed to really take off, but adoption was a challenge. But kudos to the authorities who didn't give up. And like you mentioned, right, UPI has been a revolution in itself, and the figures are out in the open. Plus, it's the ease of how you use the technology, right? It's just you can just scan and enter a 4-digit pin, and you can make the payments, right? So definitely, in terms of pre-COVID, while the push was there every time for the digitization, we actually saw the movement towards the digital economy post the demonetization. And yeah, it's up and up from that, right? So year on year, the even the issuance of cards, the UPI handle creations, and of course the actual payments. So it's been really phenomenal, and not just in India, right? So this has been applauded across the globe. We see how Google Pay has also gone to US and said that this has been a remarkable tech, and obviously getting the people aligned to use it has been every stakeholder has been important player, right from the banks, also the customers, right? So it's really nice to see that you can go to I'm sure most of us travel during holidays. Now of course that's gone down, but even in small places, in hill stations, you actually see that the vendors out there are open to accept digital payments. So it has been a remarkable journey, and obviously we hope, and we definitely see a spike going forward as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I mean, I came to India just before COVID started, and that was after I think a couple of years. So there was a couple of years in which I wasn't able to go back to India, and then just before COVID, I was in India for an extended period, and I was surprised to see every stall had some kind of option to accept payments digitally. And I mean, it was literally everywhere, and everybody was using digital payments to process transactions at the smallest scale, right?
Correct.
However, the interesting thing that we have seen is that this adoption has primarily been driven by B2C, and B2B has not kind of kept up with the pace of digitalization for payments in India, right? I mean, B2C, I mean, if you compare B2C to B2B, uh, I mean, it's there right in front of you, right? I mean, how many businesses today are accepting digital payments? But if you look at the B2C transactions and I mean, e-commerce and all of that, right? I mean, digital transactions are driving business there. Somehow B2B has not kept up. And what is your thought on that?
Yeah, so I think that's the next challenge that everyone wants to address. So there are many reasons, right? So, for example, even the ecosystem, when we are talking about UPIs, etc., you see that there is a restriction on the ticket size, right? In which you can transact up to 1 lakh rupees. But so, for example, another product that was launched by NPCI was e-mandates, right? And there also the ceiling was 1 lakh, which was recently increased to about 10 lakh by NPCI, right? So even the regulators understand that the adoption has been slower on the B2B side, and the push is definitely there, right? But as I was saying, it's a two-edged sword. So while the push can be there, the adoption has to be from the consumer end, right? So while the B2C universe adopted and started using in the scale that we see now, in terms of B2B, the adoption and the intent from the B2B industry is also a factor, right? And it's a responsibility to tell them the benefits of coming online, right? If you speak to bankers or across bank, cash handling is a pain in itself, right? Because you collect huge amount of money, it needs to be transported to a bank, there are lots of insurance, etc. So that is actually a complex model in itself, but it's that has been adopted, and change is the word, right? Somehow everyone is not very comfortable with change, but if we are able to together from the banking standpoint, from the regulator standpoint, if we can show the value add of even digitizing the B2B universe, it would help in the adoption, right? So it's I think the responsibility of everyone to tell them the benefits of if you move digital, what are the sort of benefits, right? And the one of the easiest way to say is the speed, right? So once you make the payment, you get it very fast, right? We have seen that features such as NEFT has also been pushed 24/7 now. That's one of the steps taken by the banks, the regulator, to ensure that the movement of money is there 24/7 across the clock, right? So we see the steps are there. It's just that from the adoption perspective, how we can reflect the value add for the B2B merchants or industries, and I'm sure that with time the adoption and the numbers would spike at that front as well.
Right. And I mean, it's interesting that you mention all of these points. And we also were talking to a lot of businesses in India, and we spoke with you as well. And we were trying to figure out that, okay, what was it that was holding back businesses from uh, moving more towards digital payments when clearly it is the superior option, right? And here are some of the observations and the reasons that we found, right? Most businesses in India are still doing a lot of manual work, right? There is a lot of manual processing of documents, transactions, deals that happens, correct? And one of the reason for that is because there are still dependencies that exist on legacy accounting and finance systems, right? So traditionally, the most popular accounting system that has been in use in India over the last 10-20 years, it's a desktop application, correct?
Correct.
It's got its own ecosystem, correct? And it doesn't integrate well with anything digital, correct? And that is one of the reasons why businesses find it hard, because they, I mean, even if they want to automate, correct, they are
Yeah.
unable to connect their legacy systems to digital platforms like Cashfree, for example, right? I mean, if somebody wants to create an invoice and just make the process simple, that okay, I create an invoice and there is uh, d- uh, that there's a payment link there, and I just send it and I receive money and it gets auto tallied. It's not possible, correct? And if you want to replace it, then there is a very high cost involved at times, right? I mean, the options so far for most Indian businesses have been either to use Tally, or to just use like SAP. I mean, there is nothing that kind of falls in between that helps them to run their business properly, that helps them to grow their business, and which is one of the reasons why the adoption of digital payments in B2B has been suffering. While there has been push from the government, while there have been efforts from RBI and other things, right? I mean, people have been trying to make it easier, but the real block was this. And this is where we kind of worked with the Catch Free team, which is your team, and we internally also worked with, and we thought that okay, we need to do something about this, right? And that's what we are going to talk about more in today's session. That okay, how do we go about solving these problems for SMEs, for small businesses, and making sure that they get all the benefits without having to pay out of their nose, and just make life easy so they can spend time on growing their business rather than doing admin work. However,
Correct.
there is another big factor. Yeah, I'm sorry, you were saying something, so that.
Yes, yes. So just an observation, right? Being in the industry, right? So the problem statement, you defined it really well. But just to share, from my experience, I've seen not only SMB and the startups struggling with it. I'll tell you, few of the largest telecom players, few of the largest pharmaceutical players, with which has the retailer distributor network. Even these players are struggling to come, and as you said, the legacy systems and the cost involved in giving this option to their either the distributors or retailers. So fairly, it's a problem statement that is there across the market, and we have to solve it to push the numbers, which would ease the entire value chain.
Right. How and one of the things was that people were trying to make things work with what they had for a very long time. So if you look at the period of 2016 to maybe 2019, this period, there was some move from some technophile businesses, but most of the businesses were like, okay, we'll make do with what we have, because we can make it work, हम चला लेंगे, ठीक है. But then 2019, something happened which all of us now know, which is basically COVID. And COVID has changed everything. I mean, it brought us face to face with a kind of adversity which our generation, I mean, forget our generation, I mean, three generations before us had not faced, right? And that kind of led to a change in the way that business is going to happen or is happening today. And it has led to a change in the mindset, which I feel, right? I mean, which I've seen happening over the last 2 years, that there's a change in the mindset in how business ought to be done, and how this adversity has inadvertently accelerated the path towards digital payments. What I mean, have you seen any uptick in adoption of digital payments and other remote and mobile friendly technologies by businesses post COVID?
Definitely, and the interesting part is that is across lines of businesses, right? So one of the other industry that was having a lot of action was insurance, right? And we see that even the companies that were fairly into collection of the money for the insurance policy, they believe to have collection agents, etc. They also came up and said that we need to digitize the collection part, right? So and there are numerous examples in which and facts and figures, right? So the industries that were fairly I would say hesitant to adopt a digitized form of collection of payments, we could actually see the urgency from them to turn around as fast as possible. And that is where again the points that the turnaround because of the systems. The first way of doing it was that how can we use the present ecosystem and just accept payments, right? And that is when the entire industry realized that that we need to upgrade. And just to share one more thing, right? And we know that in the same duration is when the GST also came, right? So while these are independent events in itself, it sort of told the merchants that yes, it's time that we need to pivot to something better, because the days or the age to come is more on these systems, right? And the other part is the scalability, right? Everyone wants to grow at a exponential rate. So to do so, even if your business operations allow you, it's also important that your tech stack, the sort of ERP that everyone uses, as you said, right? Earlier it was just Tally and SAP. So and that could not cater to the requirement, the certain spike in requirement that happened in the last 2 and 3 years, and it was something that the businesses realized, and it was also an opportunity that companies also came to know that why don't I bring about the solution for this particular problem statement. And we have seen the effects of how it has helped businesses to start business, to scale up, and I'm sure that would keep happening in the days to come.
Right. I mean, that's a very interesting point. I mean, yeah, I mean, along with COVID, we also had GST being rolled out, and GST is moving businesses towards a more electronic uh, environment. We also have e-invoices now, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, if your business has got 50 crores or more, then e-invoicing is mandatory, and it kind of makes the entire process more transparent and easier to manage for everyone, actually. And that is I mean, yeah, that has also played its part in changing the mindset of businesses. I mean, they are looking to go digital. They are looking to change things, right? And I mean, along with that, I mean, along with GST, along with COVID and the new normal, that we're talking about, people working from home. Uh, I mean, today, if I want to raise an invoice and I'm using a desktop application, I can't do that, right? There
Correct.
is a lockdown out, or maybe we are I mean, most people are working remotely today, correct? And I mean, anybody who doesn't need to go out is not going out, and it's judicious. Things may change yet, but the thing is that what we as a community have realized is that remote working is going to stay there in one way or the other, right? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it's going to be a mixture of hybrid and remote, right? And maybe some days people will come to office for certain things, some days they will not. But there are things that need to happen on a daily basis. Invoicing needs to happen on a daily basis. Your transactions, your deliveries, your I mean, you cannot stop running your business just because you're not in your office. And that is the mindset change that has happened, that hey, my business needs to run irrespective of wherever I am. And that has taken the focus to online or softwares, to cloud based applications, and to have mobile friendly applications. And this has kind of tied in with the growth story for a digital India as well. um, I mean, growth is now dependent on digitalization, or it's a direct function of how digitalized your business processes are. What are your thoughts on that, Siddharth?
So completely aligned with what you said, right? So even without these, right? So as I said, if you're looking for a scalable solution, you definitely need a digital option, right, from the invoicing to the collection of payments, and also to update ledgers, right? So if, for example, our business is doing 100 orders a day, they would obviously want to scale it to 1,000, 10,000, right? So definitely, even so the the new norm is an add-on factor, but these were factors before as well. And while the adoption was going on, the only thing that has happened now is that everyone has realized that speed is of the essence, right? And that has been true, right? If you look at the age of the company, if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, the average time they used to be in that list, that has reduced, right? So in the age of technology and where we are today, speed is what matters, right? While so you might have a a differentiator. But if you are slow in actually going to the market, you take a hit. So if you want to, scale, you want to do things at speed, this becomes an integral part, which, as we discussed, right, businesses have realized it. And we have seen that in the past, 1.5 years, we have actually seen the urgency, the urge, the push from the businesses as well, that, hey, I want a solution, a complete solution actually, right? So it's difficult to have a puzzle and try to put things all together. So they actually want a one point solution, right, where wherein they come and say, this is what I want: invoicing, accounting, acceptance of payments, and then the ultimate part is the GST payments as well, right? So that is what has been coming from the industry, from the market. And that is what we together are doing currently. And as the needs would keep on changing, we would also keep on adding more firepower to our products to meet the requirements in the market.
Right, absolutely. And all of this, I mean, everything that you said, right? I mean, in, I mean, all the users, all your customers, all your users, they are on the web, they are on their phones, they are on their mobile, right? And if you are not able to cater to them on these mediums, then they are eventually going to forget about you, because they are going to be bombarded by others. I mean, if you are not going digital but your competitor is, then he is going to win out eventually, because they will be able to scale at a faster rate. They will be able to spend more time reaching out to new customers instead of recording payments and doing invoices and whatnot. Correct. And that is going to be the differentiator, because even with a small number of people working for you, or even with a small team, it is possible now to reach hundreds of thousands of customers in a single day, and then and then to have the capacity to process those orders, to process their demand scalably, right? I mean, that's going to be the differentiator between a growth organization of the future versus the traditional businesses that fail to digitalize.
Absolutely. And so even now when we are speaking, right, there is a huge potential in the market, right? So let's say that I have an interesting product, right, which would benefit the end customer also, right? So the first part, with the growth in the network and mobile handsets, people are able to see the products across, right? And the second is challenge is what you spoke about, right? That how do you ensure the availability of the product and the entire value chain, right? So if someone wants to buy, how does he or she sees that, okay, this is a product that I want to buy, right? And then the person who actually has a product, how can he sell it to the customer, and the entire value chain, right? The logistics, everything. But firstly is that for a person sitting in a tier 3 city, if he aspires to have any product or service, right? How is it that one is that the visibility is there. Second is that they place the order, the fulfillment, and for the business also, right? So if he or she is actually looking at the tier 2, tier 3 cities, that is where the entire system has to have a major upgrade to cater to that requirement. And we have seen examples of few of the companies, like what has Misho done, right? The number of orders they are processing, the number of pin codes that they are servicing is phenomenal, right? And there are other businesses also which has shown that it is successful, but it is just the tip of the iceberg. I would say it's about 5% of the market. So the entire 95% is still there to be catered to, and to reach out. So that is where I see that the slide where we saw that the adoption of B2C has been exponential as compared to the B2B, is that would be the pivoting point, and we'll see that the surge in the B2B side as well.
Right. And that kind of brings us to this simple relation, or correlation rather, right? That growth is going to be directly proportional to digitalization in the coming few years. And even today, right? I mean, businesses that have pivoted to a digital model have grown faster, and they are seeing more customers being acquired every day, higher revenue being generated, and so on. Whereas the businesses that have been the most impacted are businesses that were unable to digitalize their offerings or their services in a short period of time, and that has obviously led to some problems for certain sectors, right? um, but with that thought in mind, right, let's come to the main point of today's masterclass, which is about digitalizing invoicing and payment, right? So I mean, when you think about invoicing and payment, right? I mean, it seems like such a simple process. Hey, you raise an invoice, you send it, you get paid, correct? I mean, that's what most people have in their minds when they think about invoicing. But when you go into the details and you start looking at the numbers, then a different picture emerges, right? And here are some of the stats that we have. Um, Siddharth, what is your take on this?
Absolutely right. So first problem was that people were not even creating invoices, and the taxation now sees that invoices is a critical activity to get the input credit, right? So that means that now everyone needs to create an invoice, right? And second, like you said, the market sort of was okay with these everyone said that it's a cash economy and the movement of money takes time, etc., etc. But now is the time wherein everyone says that, hey, we need a change, right? And now that we have realized it's to give a viable solution to these requirements of the businesses, right? So how to digitize the creation of the invoices, right? How to do the reconciliation. So again, the same point, right? You might be doing 100 orders a day, you want to scale it up to 10,000. You cannot have a manual process, right? It just won't work. So how we can automate the entire part is right. I'll give a very simple example, right? Let's say the age old business of lending, right? It's simple that you want to disburse a loan, right? So how fast you can identify the credit worthy customers, how fast you can disburse the loan, and then how fast you can recollect it, right? And if you are doing a tick mark on all these checkpoints, you have a viable business which can then scale up, right? So that's my take on how the industry has changed. And now, since the problem statement has come into the industry, it is on the onus for companies to come out with a viable solution and a scalable and a fast solution.
Correct. And another important point that tend to skip our mind is that it's not just about the value of the invoice and how much money you are going to make, but also about how quickly you can get that money in your bank, right? I mean, it's all about cash flow eventually, right? I mean, if you are, I mean, if you have a good cash flow, then you have more to invest, you have more money to expand, you have more money to hire new folks, you have more money to run more ads, correct? I mean, if you're collecting faster, then you are able to grow faster. I mean, it's as simple as that. And in order to collect faster, you need to make sure that you're sending the right invoices, you're sending them on time, you're sending them with the option to get paid faster. And stats have shown that digital payments are up to 5 times as fast as getting a manual payment. I mean, and we don't even need to do the math on that. I mean, if you just think about it, right? Digital payment, there is a link, you click on it, you enter your authentication, and that's it. I mean, the money's paid, it goes and sits in your bank, right? Whereas for manual payment, you send the invoice for approval, then there is a check that has to be signed. First you have to chase the person who has the checkbook and ask him, please put this account number here and the name here and the amount here. Then he's puts the amount in, then you have to go and get the signature from the finance head or maybe the owner. And then the owner is not available because he's busy, he's, I mean, because he has to do 10,000 things. So when he gets time, he signs it. Then it goes and sits on the desk of the person who has to go and submit it. And then by the time the office is closed, because it's uh, it's already Friday second half, nobody wants to go out, so they will go and do it on Monday. And then on Monday there is a public holiday, and then they go on Tuesday. And then by the time you actually send the invoice and then somebody pays it, it has already taken 5 days. So even without the math, even without the stats, I mean, just intuitively you can see that digital payments are so much faster. I mean, it's just a question of forwarding that link to the person who's supposed to make the payment. I mean, that's it. You can do it on the phone, you can do it through email, you can send a message with the link. There are so many options, and these are again devices that people have. They're looking at it all the time, so it's there right in front of them, correct? And there are horror stories in the invoicing, in invoicing. I mean, and there are more stats that we will look at. uh, but yeah, I'm sorry, Siddharth, you were saying something.
Yeah, so the points were really good, right? So it's sort of increasing the operational efficiency, and second is the journey of the collection of payments also, right? So one is that you send the invoice. If the payment is not coming, you actually send someone to collect the money, so on and so forth, right? So if you look at the time from generation of the invoice to the collection of payment, apart from of course the so there's a interest on money, right? If you get money on day one, you are happy, right? If you get it on day 15th, is actually a loss, right? And plus, to add on the points that you said, right, that it's not the best way to do things, right? And that is what maybe a consulting company would come and say that, hey, you can just do these things and you can reduce your cost by 25%, right? So I was just wanted to share this point.
Right. And yeah, I mean, and the process is not just uh, inefficient at the payment stage, but I mean, if you look at it right from the start, right, so many paper invoices being generated even today and being sent via mail or courier, or somebody runs from one office to another to hand the invoice. I mean, 57% of invoices are sent using paper today, even now, right? I mean, that's a huge number. And what happens with paper invoices? They get lost. Sometimes they're not delivered because the mailman lost them, or they are in the office and they are sitting in some drawer. And when the time of payment comes, nobody knows, because paper doesn't wake up in the middle of the day and say, hey, you need to pay me today. No, only the software can do that, correct? And this dependence on paper invoices is one of the main reasons why invoices are paid late, right? Then again, with the paper invoices, you send it out, right? Or with any invoices. I mean, if you're creating a paper invoice, chances are that you're doing it manually, you're doing it using your hand, using your Excel or a Word document or whatever, correct? And what happens with that is manual errors. 3.6% of manual invoices have errors, right? I mean, that's a huge number if you consider the millions and millions and millions of invoices being created around the world on a daily basis, right?
Correct.
So avoiding late payments, improving this entire process of invoicing and payment processing can improve your AR and your collections and your cash flow, right? I mean, and that is intuitive, that's obvious. And let's take a look at the process that you have around sending it today. I mean, if you're doing it manually, right? And what are the pain points that you have? Correct.
Yeah.
You uh, have to create and send GST invoices manually. Imagine you're doing that. You're doing GST calculations, correct? There are HSN codes and SSE codes for every single product that are defined. You have to use the right HSN code or the SSE code. You have to look up the GST percentage against that HSN and SSE code. You have to go ahead and um, do the cess calculation if there is cess applicable for the product that you are selling out, right? Then there are these time-based rules. For example, there was a flood in Kerala some time ago, and there was an additional cess applied for that. So if you are selling something in Kerala, you have to have that applied, but that's only applicable for a particular period. What if you don't know about it, right? I mean, you're stuck. I mean, you will miss out. I mean, you will miss putting that in your invoice, correct? So you spend a lot of time to be accurate about the invoice that you're creating and sending. And then after you have sent it, you have to spend hours following up for payment. Why? It's not because the other party doesn't want to pay you. It's just that it's a paper invoice, it's sitting somewhere. And you have to spend time to remind them, because I mean those guys are also busy. I mean it's not always intentional. Sometimes people just forget about it, and then you have to make sure that you follow up. And following up for invoice payments, yes, it has to happen. But what most people are doing it, they will call somebody, they will call the accounts person, hey, there's an invoice pending. Then the account person will be like, okay, what's the invoice number? Then this person is like, okay, give me a minute, let me check. They will go and check in their ledger. They will find, okay, this is the invoice number that I sent to them. They will give them the invoice number. Then they will go and check in their ledger, and then they will try to find it. Sometimes they will find it, sometimes they are not going to find it. And then the entire process again starts. So it 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 becomes highly inefficient. And even if the payment happens, right, I mean the process doesn't stop there. After that, you have to record the payment in your accounting system, because I mean you have to complete the loop, right? And
Yes.
that in itself is an exercise, because if you are doing it manually, then once the payment happens, how will you know? That person will send you a receipt, or maybe you will call them and they will say, hey, we have made the payment. It will reflect in your bank statement next next week or next month or whatever. Then you have to wait for the bank statement. Then when the bank statement comes, then you have to see whether the amount that you have received matches with the invoice that you have raised. And then you have to record that payment based on that particular date, for that particular amount, for that particular supplier or customer. And again, because you're doing it manually, there are chances that this may you may miss out a dot or a zero or something, and record it incorrectly. And then you have to reconcile everything, right? I mean it's a time sink. And this is what prompted us, that is Teskera and Cashfree, to kind of brainstorm and figure out, okay, what is the best way to solve this problem, correct? And we are going to go to that. But there are a couple of questions here, so let me just put them. There's this question from Akira, that how do these invoices benefit small online stores? I think it automatically gives payment information when customer orders. So, Akira, I think what you're trying to, I mean, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, and if I got your question wrong. But what you're asking here is that how does digital invoicing benefit online stores? Um, that is people who are selling online on through an e-commerce portal, or maybe they have their own e-commerce site or their own website and they're selling from that. If that is what you're referring to, then the advantage that you would have is that, see, you have your uh, product listing on the e-commerce portal or on the online store, correct? And you have all your prices and quantity and whatnot. And when your customer comes on to your online store or your e-commerce portal, then they will place the order there, correct? And they will probably make the payment as well. I mean, if you have the option to receive online payments, then they can do it there. If you are providing COD, then yeah, I mean, and they choose the COD option, then they might pay you the money afterwards, after they have received the goods, correct? And once that order is placed, right, if you are using a legacy accounting system or a finance system, correct, then how will you transfer this data from your e-commerce portal to your finance system? There is no way to do that apart from doing a manual export import, or building some custom connector. So there are those challenges there. Whereas if you have an integrated system or a cloud based online accounting system, correct, like for example Deskera, right, then your e-commerce portal is connected to this, right? You have connected your cash free account there as well to manage all the payments and gateway, all the payments that are being happening online. And all of this data, all of this transaction, right, any as soon as an order is placed and the payment is done, right, there is an invoice generated with the right amount of GST, with the payment details and everything, and it is transferred via an API or through a webhook to the Deskera accounting system, along with the payment details and the payment processing done by, for example, cash free here in this case. And your GST report is ready, your inventory gets updated, because if you're selling something physical, then you would want to keep a track of your inventory as well, right? And if you have real time integration like this, then you don't have to worry about keeping a tab of how much quantity you have, how much you have sold, and how much you have left in your warehouse to actually fulfill those orders, right? Because you want to be able to fulfill your orders on time. Nobody likes late fulfillments. And with that integration in place, right, I mean, it's going to be a piece of cake for you to manage this entire process. I hope I answered your questions. And if you were asking for something else, then just please clarify in the chat.
So I'll also, just add one part to it, right? So whenever someone is, selling and, there's a payment happening, someone can also say that, one is that they might be the product, was not delivered, or, during the shipment, something happened, right? So the first question that comes is, the banks or, any regulator would say that, okay, for this order, what was the invoice, right? And that is the first thing that is always asked to go to the next step, right? So having an invoice for every order becomes very, very essential. That is how the global rules are from Master and Visa as well. That whenever there's a dispute that comes, the first document that is needed, irrespective of whether it's a product or service, it is the invoice, right? So from a merchant perspective, it's very important that every order they have the invoice, so that if there's a question on the service, on the actual delivery of the product or service, this is the first proof that would help you to say that, hey, from my end, everything was good. Might be that it was on the logistics partner or whatever. So that way it helps the business hygiene as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. In case of disputes, yes, I mean, invoice is the legal document, or the document that you would want to produce, first up. And an order is not going to cut it, right? You need to have an invoice with the proper GST and all the details. Like, I mean, when was the invoice created? What was the amount? What was the mode of payment, and so on. So, I mean, that's an excellent point. Yeah. Okay, so let's switch to this. Yeah, and this is where what I was saying, that this is where Deskera and Cashfree come together to make this process a lot easier. And let's take a quick look at how the process would look like if you have Deskera and Cashfree integration working for you. All you have to do is you need to connect your Deskera account with your Cashfree account, and we'll see how we do that. It's like 3 or 4 steps, right? Then you create your invoice and email it with the payment link, and that is it, right? Everything else is going to be automated. You don't need to follow up for invoice payments. Why? Because Teskera will have built-in rules that send reminders from time to time to both you and to the customer to make sure that the payment is done. And if the payment is already recorded, then those reminders don't go. So you don't have to worry about, hey, am I pestering this person or not? Because the system is going to take care of it, right? If you have a recurring invoice in place or a recurring subscription of any nature, then you just need to create it once, and you need to set a recurring rule around that. And every month or week or day or whatever, right? I mean, the invoice is going to go out with a unique payment link, and as soon as the payment is done, that payment is going to be recorded in Deskera. There is a complete process around recording payments, right? I mean, in accounting and for GST reporting and for financial reporting, right? I mean, to get your profit and loss and balance sheets right, correct? Every time you create an invoice, there is a double entry or a journal entry that is created. And then when a payment is added, then an adjustment entry is created. And it is creation of these entries that is basically the core function of an accounting system, right? And all of this is going to happen automatically. You don't have to create a payment entry or a payment transaction manually for this double entry to be triggered. It's just going to happen, right? I mean, you have the link, the person clicks on it, they pays the money, and the payment is recorded, the entry is made, the GST report is updated, the profit and loss is updated, the balance sheet is updated. I mean, you can immediately go in and check, on a minute by minute basis as to how your finances are changing. I mean, you don't have to wait for an hour or a day or a week or whatever, right? I mean, as soon as it gets done, it is updated in real time. So you have your business data available to you at all times. And the best part is you can do it on your phone, you can do it on your laptop, desktop, tablet, wherever. So that, what do you think?
So yeah, so the idea is to make it as simple as possible, right? So the cumulative addition is sort of mentioned that it's completely automated, right? All you need to do is have the product or service that you want to give to your customers, and that's what you have to do. The rest, the entire headache lies on us, from the generation of invoice, sending it, reminding, and collection, and mapping it, right? So all the payments that would be coming would be mapped to the respective invoices, which would keep your books really clean, and you can just focus on those part, and we'll work on the other two parts.
Right. And let's spend some time here to let me take you through a short video that shows you how you can do this process, how you can connect Deskera to Cashfree. Right. I mean, so let me go ahead and quickly share my screen with you here. I will. Okay, share screen. Tab. Awesome. Great. So let me take you through a step-by-step guide on how you can connect Deskera and Cashfree. Obviously, the requirement is that you need to have a Deskera account and a Cashfree account, or even if you don't have a Cashfree account, you can just sign up for it from within your Deskera account. And signing for Deskera accounts is pretty easy. You can just go ahead and start your free trial today. And this is what you will see. When you are in the system, you have this dashboard, and from this dashboard, right, you will have the option to create invoices. So this is how an invoice creation screen would look like. And you can add the contact details, you can add the details of the products, etc. And you will have the option here to connect to Cashfree. So there is an option to set up payment, and you can connect to Cashfree from just going to this option and clicking here. And this will launch the connect to Cashfree screen. Now, this will ask you to authenticate and connect your Deskera accounts with the cash-free accounts. So, I mean, since you already have a Deskera account here and you have the ID and password, you just go ahead and do that. And then you can set up a cash-free account here. So to connect to Cashfree, if you already have a Cashfree account, right, you can just click on Connect Account and add your authentication details. There is an app ID and secret key, etc. details that are available within your Cashfree account. So just need to get those details and put them in here. Once you have put those details, you will start seeing all the invoices that are available to be sent with an online payment link. You can just go to share and send it out to your customers. You can do it from this screen, or you can do it from within Deskera as well. And you can see that once you've connected it, the connect button goes away, and you can see that Cashfree is already connected here. And you can email the invoice from inside here. There is a payment link that will be auto inserted at the bottom. And you can obviously choose to design the template, whichever way you want. You can choose one of the pre-designed templates, or you can design your own. And you can see that the payment link is auto inserted here. So when you send this invoice and your customer opens this invoice, they will see the payment link, they click on it, and let's take a look at how that goes. So this is basically when you're setting up your, yeah. Let me. So this is the email that you would see, that your customer would rather see when they receive the invoice along with the payment link. You can see the payment link here at the bottom, and you also have the invoice attached as part of the email. And once your customer clicks on this link, they will see this screen where you can see the details of the client, you can see the amount, you can see which product it is, what is the invoice number, what is the amount, and there is a make payment button here. And this make payment button will take you through cash free interface, where you can either pay using card or UPI or your digital wallet if you have already one with cash free. And that is it. I mean, you will get an OTP and the invoice will be paid. And it's as simple as this, right? I mean, you start creating an invoice, you just log into Deskera, you start creating an invoice. You don't have to do any setup, you don't have to do any configuration, nothing. Just go start creating an invoice, go to setup payments, select cash free, connect your cash free account with the Deskera account, and that is it. I mean, nothing more needs to be done. You email it out. When the payment happens, the payment is automatically recorded. Okay. So let's uh, come back here to the presentation. Let me quickly share the presentation back here. All right. Okay, we are back. So yeah, I mean, literally two steps. Uh, Start creating an invoice, connect your cash free account, email the invoice, and that's it. You can forget about everything else, right? And one question that might come to your mind is, hey, what about bank reconciliation? Because when people make this payment, there is going to be a bank entry also and a transaction also, and then how will I reconcile my bank statement with this? Well, the good news is that you have automatic bank reconciliation rules in Deskera. What you can do is you can connect any of the banks uh, using your internet banking authentications to to get live data feeds from your bank into the Discara system. So you don't even need to do like a manual export of an Excel or your bank transaction or whatever. Just connect your bank, just authenticate yourself with the bank, connect Discara to your bank, get all the live bank data in the system, and you can set up a rule that uh, uh, for example, if the payment is from vendor X, then you automatically create an expense, for example, right? I mean, you can automate all the mundane expenses and whatever that you are getting from your bank transactions and create them automatically, so you have more time to focus on the more important things and the more complicated transactions that you want your accountant to work on, correct? And so basically you don't even have to do any kind of bank reconciliation. It just happens automatically. You just need to set up a one time rule based on your vendor name or the amount or the kind of product, and I mean, that's it. And that brings us to the next point, which is all of the things that you can achieve just by automating invoicing and payment part of your business. I mean, we have just spoken about automating the invoicing and payment and digitalizing this one process, which is one of the many business processes. And there are multiple advantages here that you can see. Um, so you can automate invoice creations and reminders and payment entries and bank reconciliations and GST calculations and compliances, right? You get paid a lot faster with online payments, and you don't have to spend a lot of time doing manual work, which means that you are spending your time doing things that really matter, on acquiring new customers, on selling more, on reaching out to a wider audience, on getting more people interested in what you are doing, what you are selling, instead of how you are doing it. Essentially, you make more money in lesser time at a lower cost. I mean, it's as simple as that, and this is just by automating one business process, which is invoicing and payment. Siddharth, what do you think about it?
Yes, so Saurabh, absolutely right, the way you put it, right? So, think when a company starts or is thinking of scaling up, there's so many numerous tasks that the team has to focus on, right? And while these are on the screen you would see about 7 to 8 points, when you actually have to do it, these are really really time consuming tasks, which if automated, so everyone has limited time, right? You can use the same time to do something constructive, to have that exponential growth, and automate these parts, which would help you scale, would reduce the reconciliation efforts. You'd get the money as fast as possible, which would in turn help your working capital requirements, right? So there are multiple benefits for this, and like I said, it's all about scaling up to that growth, and these are few of the steps that have been personally I've seen businesses automating, and the difference that the feedback they've said that before the automation, the kind of efforts they were putting into, and post the automation, the kind of efforts they put into other tasks, right, which has helped them to have that exponential growth and the scale that everyone wants in their line of business.
Hey, thanks. It. Sorry, I have to do a change of a headgear. There was today is not a good day for me when it comes to electronics. I am facing a lot of malfunctions. Earlier there was a problem with the mic, and now there's a problem with the speaker. So I have to put on these temporary headphones. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, Saurabh, we can
Okay.
hear you loud and clear.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, it's not a good day when it comes. I mean, sometimes it's just one of those days when anything that I touch is just going bonkers. So, well, it is what it is. So there is not much that can be done about it. But hey, so yeah, I mean, so when you just look at all these advantages, that you're getting from just one business process, then the obvious next question is that, you know, why don't we do more? Why do we stop just there? Correct. And then the next thought that immediately comes into your mind is that, hey, why don't we transform every business into a growth organization where we automate as much of the business process as possible? And trust me when I say this, I mean, nearly everything can be automated. There is no reason why you cannot. There is this old saying, yes, that don't try to do something efficiently what that shouldn't be done at all. But if it needs to be done and you're doing it manually, then there is always a better and faster way to do it. And that is what is going to transform you into a growth organization. And let me talk a little bit about what I mean uh, uh, when I say growth organization, right? A growth organization is, so let's take an example, right? Let's take an example of a wholesale uh, P2P trader, correct? The wholesale industry overall, I mean, across the world is growing at a rate of, 4 to 5% per year, correct? And it's one of those industries that has not seen explosive growth, uh, with time. I mean, when you compare it with any, most other industries, there are very few industries that have got a smaller growth rate than, for example, wholesale trading B2B, right? And how we can fix that, right? I mean, how they can ex- how they can get faster growth. How can somebody who's running a wholesale B2B trading business today uh, grow faster, right? And the answer lies in automation, correct? Think about this scenario, right? Where, I mean, let's say you have a shop, correct? I mean, you have a retail store, which is the front. You was doing wholesale business, but you also have a retail store. You are managing, different multiple, products and inventories, correct? You have a network of customers and suppliers which exist, and I mean, they are obviously relied and trusted suppliers and customers that you know that, okay, these customers are going to pay on time, right? And you have special pricing for them and whatnot. And that is the entirety of your business scale, right? I mean, that's the scale that you have achieved. And it's very hard to expand this scale unless you spend more time in actually expanding this. What happens is, for a typical business owner or a typical person who's running this company, correct? uh, they are spending about 40% of their time in getting reports, in checking the progress of the work, in actually trying to get data to their table so they can make decisions, that they are left with hardly two-thirds of the day to actually spend on growth. And even the remaining 60% of the day is not going into that, because there are distractions, there are interruptions. So in terms of the time available to them, right, I mean, they're not able to optimize it and focus it exclusively on growth. So it becomes a very rigid system, or a rigid ecosystem, in which they end up existing, and that is what is hampering the growth of the entire industry today, right? I mean, and how do you change that? How do you transform into a growth organization, right? uh, that is something that we want all of you to think about, correct? I mean, you have to take baby steps. Yes, I mean, you don't want to change the entire DNA of your company and what you do and what you're doing, right? But there have to be baby steps that you have to take, and just digitalization of invoicing and the payment process is that first step that you can take, and we will talk a little bit more about the other steps as well. What Siddharth, what do you think?
Absolutely. So, rightly put. And the other part is, apart from this, whenever, sort of gave a very good example that, few of the compliances change, right? So, it is, our responsibility that, again, we'll take care of, those parts wherein, you don't have to worry about any change outside the spectrum in terms of both in terms of the, invoicing compliances and as well as the payment compliances, right? So we'll take care in future as well, and we'll keep you up to date that this is a norm that has happened. And since it's auto reconciled, you would anyways have it really streamlined. But we'll also notify you any change that happens, and you can take the corrective course of action, which would be spearheaded by us as your partners.
Right. And here is a roadmap that you can follow to help you transform yourself from a regular business to a growth organization, right? Invoicing and payments is just one of the things, and that is what I mean, that has a major impact on your cash flow, on your profit and loss, and your growth. But there are other aspects of your business that you can improve, right? Marketing automation, sales and pipeline management. How do you get leads today, right? Are you relying on the phone book even now, or are you actually doing any content marketing? Do you have a website? Do you have an e-commerce store in place? Are you building landing pages and funneling your traffic to the right pages, to the right landing pages, to take the desired action, right? And then if there is a drop off, for example, right, I mean, you have a sales funnel and somebody drops off at any stage, are you automating the follow ups? Are you doing this manually? Are you doing this automatically? Correct. I mean, if you're spending time doing it manually, then you won't have time to build more landing pages, you won't have time to run more campaigns, right? So it's important that you automate whatever that could be automated, right? Then once you have these leads in place and they have actually decided to be your customers, correct, are you making it easy for them to pay you, right? Are you making it easy for your employees to track all the transactions, to make sure that your customers orders are being fulfilled on time? Do you have all the necessary tools in place to make sure that you have enough stock in your warehouse, for example, to fulfill all the orders that you are expected to receive over the next couple of months? Do you have forecasting abilities, right? Or are you spending that time that you should be ideally in forecasting for your inventory and for your sales, in actually counting the inventory that you have at your warehouse? It's a question of what is more important for you as a business, for your business's growth, right? I mean, that's what is going to help you transform your business into a growth organization. Before we move on, we have a question here from Akira. So the question is, we operate with WooCommerce site. Thing is, we have automated a mailing of invoice and mailing to customers when they order with GST and tax. So, uh, what's the and the order customer purchase? What's the difference? I am not sure I understood the question. Could you explain that a little bit, Akira? I mean, are you asking for the difference between an order with GST and the purchase order? I'm not sure. I mean, what the question is. If you could clarify, that would be great, and I'll be glad to answer that. So while we wait for Akira to clarify that, uh, I mean, this is how the tech stack or the software stack for a growth organization should look like, right? I mean, everything is accessible through mobile, everything is on cloud, so you have 24-hour accessibility irrespective of where you are, right? It is all integrated. There is built-in collaboration, there is built-in automation for the most common cases, but you have the flexibility to create automations the way that your business would want, or the way that is more suitable for your business. And once you have these pieces in place, right? I mean, then you want to make sure that your employees are happy and they are getting paid on time and everything, and they can, I mean, they feel engaged. And then you want to have a human resource system that also integrates with your CRM and with your accounting and everything. And why would you want to do that is because I mean, your sales employees, I mean, your salespeople are also your employees, right? And they have targets, and then you want to make sure that the commission calculation gets tied in with whatever invoices are being generated, and that is going into their payslip as well. So you need all of this kind of integrated. And once this is integrated, once this entire thing is in place, then you can just make the payments to your employees, to your vendors. You can receive payments from your suppliers, from your customers. And the good news is that we are working with Cashfree to incorporate uh, salary payouts, to incorporate supplier payouts as well. And that is something that you can expect to see in the near future. So, Siddharth, I mean, we all know about collecting payments, but there are so many other uh, services that Catchfree has, and maybe you would like to spend some time with us on the other services that we can use, from Catchfree's suite, and how do they help businesses.
Sure, Saurabh. So, primarily we have divided the business into, two parts, right? So one is the collection part, which we have been, talking about, in which we help businesses collect funds, right? And then we also have a validation, suite. So wherein, we want to validate, bank accounts, the PAN cards, the PAN numbers, and, that's work in progress. We want to extrapolate it to, in future for GST and Aadhaar as well, right? And then there was in the Indian context, almost everyone were focusing on the pain point of collection of payments. We were one of the first companies in India to actually automate the disbursements, right? So in the same example where you said that the solution would be helping collect payments, right, from the customers, right? And then there would be the supply side as well, so to whom you want to make the payment, right? So the automation should not just stop at the point of collection. The idea is that the automation is present in the entire value chain, right? Which means that actually paying out your vendors, your suppliers, as you said, the incentive payouts for the sales team, etc. So we are already doing it for various companies, across the spectrum, successfully, and we are the market leaders when it comes to that side as well, right? In terms of collection of payments, right? So we have always, as a company, tried to solve the customer pain points, right? That is where the value add comes, right? So one of the pain points is of course the success rate, right? That when there's an intention to pay but the transaction does not go through because of any reason. So we have brainstormed, build the tech stack in such a way that the success rates are really high, as well as the scalability of it, right? We've also understood that we have large number of players that at the inception of the session Saurabh said that the switch over takes time, right? So even though someone would want to automate, maybe the change in tech stack would take time, but we don't want to stop for a business to actually do it and then start collecting payments, right? So we have built solutions in which there are no coding or tech efforts, but the businesses can start collecting payments right from day one. In fact, we have a very very low go live. Businesses can start collecting payments as early as 4 hours once they register with us, right? And many new things that we have done, right? So this is how the generation is, right? Where the business can enter the amount, the customer details such as the mobile number, email ID where you want to send, and we also have a validity period, right? That for example, the invoice needs to be cleared in 1 week or in a 15-day period. So these are the sort of features we have built, understood that this is the requirement in the market, and we have come out with such solutions, right? So
So
when
yeah, I mean, yeah, I was just going to ask you these questions, and then the slide also came in. So it's okay. Please go ahead.
right. So while we obviously have a completely automated solution, right? One of the question was WooCommerce, right? But the idea is, or also just to share, right? So what businesses saw that even when after a customer adds a product to the cart and wants to pay, at times they are not able to complete the payments, right? And the percentage was actually high. So now what, or for example, businesses want the money in digital format, right? They don't want to collect payments. So let's say I, as a customer, am trying to buy a product of 1,000. I sort of dropped, right? So as a merchant, what I do is I send a payment link and say, hey, why don't you pay online? And I'll give you a discount of 50 rupees, right? So that the payment collection is completely automated. There is no one to collect the payment at the delivery time. So that is why we created the payment links. Like I said, we have added many features such as partial payments. The scalability is obviously there. We also have a reminder feature, right? That as Saurabh said, that a piece of invoice on paper cannot remind you that hey, you need to make the payment, right? So these are all real life problems that as a feedback came from the market, and we have made the product in such a way, and it's always an ongoing process, right? So tomorrow there would be a new requirement, and we'll customize the product accordingly to meet that new requirement.
Right. And I mean, this is something that can be used by different businesses as well, right? I mean, irrespective of whether you are a brick and mortar business, or you're a service provider, or if you are running an e-commerce platform like Akira is. And we will come to Akira's question very soon. So Akira, just give us some time, while we just finish the slide, and then we'll be coming to your question. But yeah, I mean, irrespective of what kind of a business, what kind of an industry you are in, right? uh, these solutions can be deployed and used, and they will essentially improve the time to get paid. They will improve uh, your your operational efficiency.
Correct, Saurabh. So, rightly put. So, irrespective of what is the nature of business, right? The invoicing and payment would have to be there.
Correct, absolutely. And then these are some of the benefits. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about these, Siddharth.
So, like I said, we always try to understand what is the requirement of the market and we build, right? So one of the premium features that we launched was instant settlement, right? So access to credit, we have discussed during this session as well, that how fast you get the credit is of utmost important. So while the industry norm is to get the payments on the next working day, we can settle funds as early as 15 minutes to our merchants, right? So that is one very very interesting product that we launched fairly recently, about 1.5 years ago, and which has been adopted really, really well in the ecosystem. Right. Second, No, few features pre-authorization. It's more for the travel industry. The second is instant refunds, right? So if you look at it in an ethical way, when you are buying a product, you get debited in real time, right? But when you are actually supposed to get a refund, because of the network, there is a delay there. So we understood that this is a big challenge, right? I'm sure each one of us has encountered this, be it cancellation of a flight, or buying something on the e-commerce giants such as Amazon or Flipkart of the world, that we get a message saying that, hey, you would get the funds in 5 to 7 working days, right? That is the industry norm. So we said that why don't we do something here, and we were able to reach near real time refunds as a product, which again was widely accepted in the industry. Then auto reconciliation, this is a very interesting point, right? Because the payment is such is a network, right? There is a issuing bank, there's an acquiring bank, and there are networks such as Master, Visa, Rupee, etc. So what happens at times that the reconciliations happens after a duration of time, right? But there might be few businesses that have to take a call in near real time, or they can and have a cutoff, right? So for example, we are having this session, and in not such times, let's say we were sitting in office, right, and I wanted to order groceries when I reach home, right? So let's say I place the order at 3 p.m. The merchant has to take a call by, let's say, 4 p.m., right? They cannot wait beyond 4, because then it doesn't make sense. So what we did is we sort of gave a customizable window to our merchants, in which they can take a call that if the transaction is not updated in a particular duration. In the example that I took, let's say they say by 4 o'clock, if I don't get the payment, I can ask the customer to repay again, so that even if the transaction gets successful at a future time, he does not have to wait. So all these are based on feedbacks that we keep on getting from our merchants, from our partners, and we sort of build the product according to that need. And that was exactly the point, right? That when you partner with us, if there is any requirement from the invoicing perspective or from the payments perspective, we would anyway do it for the entire sort of merchants that depend on us to give them the superior experience.
Right. And it's you mentioned a word there, which is the payment network, right? And that is a concept that I feel that is not very clear to a lot of people, right? I mean, because we uh, I mean, when you think of a payment gateway, right, you think, okay, it's all being done by, Visa, or it's all been by Mastercard, it's all been by Cashfree, right? But maybe you could go a little bit into the details of what the payment network or the backbone is, and how does it work, and how do these transactions go from one place to another. I mean, that's an interesting thing that people keep asking me as well from time to time when we talk about online payments and gateways. That, I mean, that, okay, I mean, how does this entire thing work? And that is, and one of the reasons why they ask is this because of specifically, refunds, of managing refunds, and how will the refunds get uh, uh, remitted to them.
Sure, sure. So, sort of what I'll try to do, I'll try to compare it with a real life example so that the audience can relate it, right? So, there are multiple players involved in a transaction, right? So, which is the issuer bank, that is the bank that gives you the issues the card to you, right? And then there is a network which is essentially the Visa, Master, Rupee network, and then there is a acquiring bank which is processing the transaction, right? So let me relate it to a real life. Let's say that sitting at home, that is your issuing bank. The acquiring bank is your office, and the path that you take to reach office is the road, right? So when a transaction actually initiates, right, the flow of information is that the acquiring bank through the network that tells the issuing bank that, hey, there is a payment request of, let's say, 1,000 rupees, right? And then it is for the issuing bank to understand that whether the account or the card has the sufficient balance, and the information goes back through the network to the acquiring bank and says that yes, if the money is there, then it goes to the next step, that the transaction goes to successful or not. At times what happens is the flow of information from the banks, from acquiring bank to issuing bank through the network, or like I said, from your office to your home, and the journey, right? At times we face traffic jams, right, and there are delays. right? And that is exactly what happens in the payment ecosystem as well, due to maybe server maintenance or the peak loads. We have the IPL going on, right? And it sort of clogs the entire ecosystem of everyone, right? From Master, Visa, NPCI, everyone, right? So there are these challenging times, and while these are really really scalable solutions out there, but still the sort of customers we have in India, it sort of clogs this network as well, right? So that is essentially what happens, that the flow of information between two banks through a network is what actually goes on in the back end, right? And as I said, in India is highly regulated, so the bank says that the movement of money has to happen through a bank, right? And that is how the entire network in India is set up. Abroad, internationally, the network, which is Mastercard, Visa, it's called as MIGS, Cybersource, etc. They can actually complete the entire payment journey. But in India, as per RBI, there is a bank which gets involved, and the combination of the network and the bank is what is technically called as a payment gateway.
Understood. Thank you. That was explained very well. And if anybody has any questions, on any of that, please feel free to put it in the chat. And coming back to Akira's question here, right? So what Akira wanted to know is benefits of implementing Deskera service with WooCommerce when you already have like an automated plugin for invoices. So the fact that you have an automated plugin for invoices means that you're already on your journey, towards automation, and that's a good thing. So thumbs up, my two thumbs up to you, right? Now the next step would be, see, I mean, what WooCommerce is doing is that with your WooCommerce setup, you're automatically creating these invoices, which is good. Now GST calculation, etc., I'm assuming that these plugins are doing now. But there is the next step after this, right? You have to do your GST filing, correct? You have to have your GST1 report, you need to reconcile your GST2 reports, and then you need to generate your GST3 reports. So to generate the GST3 reports, all of these transactions or invoices that you have to go inside and sit in an accounting system where they can be audited, and they can be used to generate the GST reports. And that GST report is what you will submit to the government eventually, right? Now, if you are not doing that, and then you probably have to take all of this out, and either hand it over to your accountant, correct, who will have to then process everything one by one manually eventually, and then put it in whatever system that they are using, and then generate a report from that. Or even if you are using an accounting system that doesn't talk to WooCommerce or your e-commerce setup, right, then you have to still export out all the details, then import them into that system, and then make sure that all the data has been entered correctly and whatnot. And I mean, after that, you're able to generate your GST report. With Deskera, what will happen is that you have your uh, invoicing automated, number one, so you don't need to do any additional invoicing for any of the customers. That is, so you don't need an additional plugin, but you can continue to use the plugin. I mean, it's absolutely fine. But you can connect your WooCommerce setup to the Deskera setup. We have a plugin for that on our store, which is out on store.deskera.com, wherein you can connect your WooCommerce store to Deskera. And in addition to making sure that all the orders and invoices are getting synced and your GST reports, etc., are being generated, it will also make sure that your inventory is also up to date in both the systems. Because what's going to happen, right? I mean, every time you have an order placed, that inventory is getting reserved or getting consumed, right? Uh, and if your inventory system, wherever you're keeping a track of your inventory, be it on uh, I don't know where you're doing that right now. Maybe it's in a system, maybe it's in a spreadsheet, but wherever you are keeping track of it, right, that's not getting automatically updated unless you have kind of spent some time to connect that to your WooCommerce setup and keeping an accurate count, right? And even if they are connected and you are able to update the sales entries, you still have to update the purchase entry somewhere, because unless you are manufacturing these items, right, you have to purchase the items to be able to sell them forward. And even if you are manufacturing these items, then you will need to uh, still purchase the raw materials, which you have to keep a track of and be able to combine together to manufacture different finished goods which you are then going to sell. And you have, I mean, you will want to keep a track of how many raw materials you have and how many finished goods you have based on the manufacturing process or the combination process, and then being able to make sure that the right amounts are visible on your WooCommerce setup. So there is a lot of benefit that still can be obtained even if you have automated invoicing. There is a lot of work that you can still automate, and a lot of benefit from managing your inventory tightly, getting better inventory control. We in fact did a session on this. There was an inventory control and management session that's available on our YouTube channel. So go ahead and take a look at it. And we have discussed multiple methods of uh, better inventory control and how Deskera can help you with that. I hope that answers your question. All right. So let's move on. And we are going to go back to the slide. And there are a couple of exclusive offers that we have for you from both Deskera and Cashfree. So let's talk about that. All right. So this is where we were when we were talking about automating your entire business process, right? Automating your entire business. It's not just about, I mean, you have to start somewhere, and uh, if you have to start somewhere, then start with automating your invoicing and payment, and that is going to give you a big boost. But don't stop there, because the benefits that you're going to get by automating your business processes, even if you're doing it one by one, right, are huge. And if you just go ahead and start that automation today, right, uh, then you are set. I mean, you will grow faster. That's a guarantee, correct? How, and in order to facilitate your growth journey, these are some exclusive offers that are available today to you, right? If you are signing up for Deskera today, we are giving you 50% off for the entire year, right? Just use this code. So when you're signing up, uh, wherever you are entering your payment details, just enter this code, and that's it. And as an added incentive, correct, there are going to be free credits and zero charges on transactions worth up to rupees 3 lakhs using the payment gateway for the first 3 months. Siddharth, you want to tell us more about that? And maybe
Sure.
throw some light on the different transactions, fees, and everything else as well.
Sure. So, the transaction fee is a function of the mode of payment, right? So the fees are defined by, the banks and the networks, the interchange, so that's a complex model. But yeah, this is the mode of payment. There is a cost, which is in the form of a percentage when we are talking about collection of payments, right? So under this, the offer is that, if you sign up for Cashfree via Deskera, so we would be waiving off the TDR, which is called as the transaction discount rate, is the term used across the globe, for an amount of 3 lakhs for the first 3 months. So that would incentivize you to accept payments digitally, and you will actually get the chance to see the benefits, which in turn I'm sure would help you to realize the shift and the benefits of digital payments.
Right. So, I mean, please don't wait. I mean, just go to deskera.com, click on start your trial. Just do a 15-day trial. You don't even have to pay us right now. Just go ahead and do a 15-day trial first. Connect your cash free account, start using invoicing and digital payment using Deskera, and see the benefit for yourself. Don't take, our word for it. Don't take Siddharth's word for it. Don't take my word for it. Go ahead, try it out, do it yourself, and you will see the benefit right here. There is literally zero rupees that you have to invest to try this entire thing out, right? Because you're not paying anything for up to 3 lakhs transaction, and there is a free trial available for Deskera. And if you like what you see, then you're getting 50% off after the trial is over. for the entire year. I mean, what? I mean, that's a great deal, if you ask me. And with that, we come to the end of today's session, right? Siddharth, any parting thoughts that you would like to share with the audience?
So parting thoughts would be, like I said, that we have actually seen businesses migrate from the legacy system or the processes that they were actually doing, and we have seen the growth that such businesses have achieved by digitalized the online payments and the automated invoicing solutions, right? So there are a number of success stories. Hope your story is also added to the various success stories that are there in the market.
Awesome. And if you do, just and if you have any questions whatsoever about using cash free, about using Deskera, about connecting the two, any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out to us. We are available at hello@deskera.com. So you can just write to us. Any questions whatsoever, feel free, drop in a line, and we'll be glad to answer that. And if you have not visited, go to our blog. There is an article that explains everything about it, digital invoicing and payment. You just look for Deskera cash free announcement there. It gives you step by step instructions on connecting both the accounts, on creating your first invoice, adding a payment link, sending it out to your customer, getting it paid, and seeing your data getting populated automatically. Then we have deskera.com/care, where all the help and support articles are available. So if you want to, for example, connect your WooCommerce site or your Shopify site or your Amazon store, or you want to learn how to do better inventory management and what are the different inventory functions available, then there are a multitude of how to articles available here, which you can just refer to, or as I said, I mean, just write to us and we will be glad to answer your any of your questions. And with that, we are signing off for today. Thank you so much, Siddharth, for joining us and answering all these various questions and enlightening us with how payment gateways work, and how businesses can improve their processes by digitalizing payments and other business processes as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.